We all know the many roles that horses play in this world, but there's that one role that maybe you haven't heard of yet, and if you want to learn what that role is, and more, stay tuned on Ant's Reptile Colony. I'm Ant. What we're going to be learning about in today's video is what to do if you find a snake on your property, snakebite first aid, and everything to do with antivenom. And I'm sure all of you saw this coming by now, and that is because I've mentioned the word antivenom, which means it includes venom, which means I've got to include poison, because that is the unwritten law when it comes to these things. So we're going to do a quick explanation describing the differences between the two, that is venom and poison, and then we'll get back into the video. So both venom and poison are toxins. The difference between the two is in the method of delivery. Poison needs to be ingested or come into contact with your skin or with your eyes or anything like that for it to take an effect. Venom, on the other hand, needs to be injected directly into your bloodstream for it to take an effect by means of a syringe, fang, or stinger. A good way to remember this is that if you bite something and you die, it's poisonous. If something bites you and you die, then it's venomous. And what should you do should you find a venomous snake in your garden, or any snake in your garden? The first thing, step one, is remain calm. Do not panic. As soon as you panic, it inhibits your decision making, and that could lead to bad decisions being made, or maybe not the best decision being made, and that can lead to injuries to both you and or the snake in question. Do not attempt to catch the snake at all, especially if you're unsure of what type of snake it is. You want to keep your eyes on the snake at all times. You got to watch it like a hawk. This is because the next step is to call your local snake catcher. And if you're alone in the house and you have your cell phone on you, that's not a problem. You can stand there, keep an eye on that snake, and call the local snake catcher. And keeping an eye on that snake until the snake catcher arrives. If you are not alone in your house and your cell phone is not with you, time to practice using your lungs, getting that volume out there, vocal cords, all that, and shout for someone in your household to please make the call or bring your phone to you so that you can still keep an eye on that snake. If once again you're alone and your cell phone is not on you, then okay, you have to go get the phone to make the call. But if at all possible, fetch the phone, find the snake again, and make the call once you have the snake in your sights. This is because if you take your eyes off the snake, they could quickly escape, and they're also very good at camouflage, and that snake could then possibly be gone forever. Okay, not quite forever, but there's a very small chance that the snake catcher will be able to find it on arrival. But assuming all goes well, you've kept your eye on the snake catcher finds the snake, they will then go and remove the snake and relocate it somewhere safe. Perhaps in the garden of someone you don't like down the road? No, I'm just kidding. We don't do that sort of thing. Oh, what I forgot to mention is while you've got your local snake catcher on the line, you can describe to them what the snake looks like, its color, its size, things like that, and they all should be able to tell you what type of snake it is and if it should be any concern for you. Either way, they'll be glad to come and collect the snake. Please do not try and attempt to kill the snake for any reason. It only increases the risk of you and or the snake getting seriously hurt, or worse. If you like, you can take a photo of the snake from a safe distance in order to help with identification purposes. In South Africa, if you remain a distance of 5 meters away from any snake, you will be 100% safe, whether it's a spitting species or not. But let's say you are bitten by a snake and it happens to be venomous. The first aid you need to know, or the steps you need to know, include, once again, remaining calm and staying as still as possible. Remaining calm keeps your heart rate low, and remaining still means that you are using less energy, causing your heart to not need to pump faster, slowing the spread of the venom through your body. You need to get to hospital as soon as possible in as safe a manner as possible, where you can receive proper medical treatment. You should remove any rings, bangles, watches, shoes, or tight clothing around the envenomation site. This is because most venomous snake bites result in major swelling. You can also apply a pressure bandage, but that should only be if you have confirmed to have been bitten by a black mamba or a Cape cobra. Not only that, the pressure needs to be very exact. In order to do that, you have to either be really lucky or really skilled. But luckily for us here in South Africa, the African Snakebite Institute has the solution in that they sell or brand a bandage called the Smart Bandage, and that is because the bandage has little rectangles on it, and as you stretch the bandage it slowly becomes a square, and once the bandage is showing lots of little squares as opposed to rectangles, that pressure is at exactly 70 millimeters of mercury, which is the perfect pressure you need for your pressure bandage. But if you are unsure, it is best to rather not apply the pressure bandage, as it leads to more harm than good, especially if the snake happens to have a cytotoxic venom, which causes the necrosis of cells. If it has been confirmed that you have been bitten by a black mamba or a care cobra and you do want to have a pressure bandage applied, rather apply the pressure bandage in transit to the hospital. Do not waste that precious time getting the pressure bandage on and then moving off to the hospital. It is more important to seek that medical attention fast rather than getting that pressure bandage on. If the victim is having trouble breathing, you can use CPR or a bag valve mask. This will prolong their lives until they have received proper medical attention. Both methods have their pros and cons, but they will not be mentioned in this video. Once again, you can take a photo of the snake from a safe distance to help with identification, but it is not necessary most of the time. Now, what you should not do is try to cut the envenomation site or suck out the venom from the envenomation site. These are terrible ideas, do not work, and will most likely cause more damage in that it exposes the wound to secondary infections, which you don't really want. Trying to suck the venom out won't work either, as it has already started to spread through the body. It has got no effect. Please do not use electric shock therapy. Electric shocks will not neutralize snake venom. Snake venom is a protein and so cannot be neutralized by electric shocks. All that's going to do most likely is increase the heart rate of the victim because they're now getting shocks through their body, which spreads the venom faster. Do not apply ice, boiling water, use any lotions or potions, as this also does not work. Yes, I mentioned venom is a protein and so it can be denatured by high temperatures, but pouring boiling water over your arm isn't going to do the trick. All that's going to do is cause you to get a burn on your arm. It's really not going to denature the venom. Probably the most important point to take away here is do not use anti-venom as a first aid measure. Please, please, please. There are many reasons for this. We'll touch more on those a bit later, but the main reason is the majority of victims that are envenomated by snakes recover fully without the need of anti-venom. Only a small percentage of victims actually require anti-venom. Also, please do not use any kits that are branded in the shops as Snakebite kits or Snakebite first aid kits, as most of the time they just come with little blades and little suction cups, which, as I mentioned earlier, cutting and trying to suck the venom out will not work. So that is just a waste of time and a waste of money. As I mentioned before, please do not attempt to catch or kill the snake. It's once again going to end badly for all parties involved. Should you have encountered any of the spitting species of snake and gotten venom in your eye, the best thing to do then is to go immediately to go and flush the eye with water. Go under a slow dripping tap or something like that and just keep flushing it out. Force it open if you have to, but keep that eye open. This will reduce the chances of permanent damage. Once you finish flushing the eye for 15 or 20 minutes, please go and seek medical help from a doctor where they can do further checks to see if more treatments are required or if everything is a-okay. If no water is available for some reason, you can use other bland liquids such as milk or beer. Water, of course, is still the best, but if push comes to shove, you can use either of those two as well. But once again, 15 to 20 minutes of constant flushing of the eye. If treated quickly, permanent damage is usually avoided. I spoke about anti-venom earlier, but didn't mention at all what it was about. And before everyone starts hammering on the comments, you can say anti-venom or antivenin. They are interchangeable. Antivenin was the original term, because it was based from the French language, but you could use either one. So antivenom is a serum that is used to neutralize the effects of venom. It does not reverse the effects of venom. It does not turn back the clock. All it does is prevent the venom from taking further effect and causing further damage. Domestic animals such as sheep, goats, and donkeys are used around the world to produce antivenom. But here in South Africa, we use horses because they are a large animal and not really used in the meat industry. Being a large animal is key, and this is because in order to produce antivenom, you need to inject microdoses of venom from a particular snake or snakes into this animal for them to build an immunity. This means that these microdoses are increased gradually over time so that the animal becomes hyperimmunized to that venom. When an animal is hyperimmunized, it simply means that a large dose of venom is required for it to have any effect compared to a non-immunized animal. That's all well and good, but what does that all mean? Well, I mentioned that the size of the animal is important because in order to produce antivenom, we extract the blood from the hyperimmunized animal, not so much as to kill the animal and leave it completely dry, but enough that it is usable. So the larger the animal is, the more blood we can extract per session. They then take the blood and isolate the proteins and antibodies from the rest of the blood. Those proteins and antibodies are then used in the production of antivenom, because it is the antibodies that actually neutralize the venom. So the next time you see a horse, just remember to say thank you, because somewhere out there are horses donating their blood to save our lives. So for any horses that are maybe watching, I thank you. I mentioned earlier that to hyperimmunize a horse, they'll either give them microdoses from a single species of snake or from multiple species of snakes. This is because in South Africa we have two types of antivenom, that is the monovalent and the polyvalent antivenom. The monovalent antivenom is only used for worm slung bites, whereas the polyvalent antivenom is then used for pretty much every other medically important snake in the country. That is all the mamba species, all the cobra species, the puff adder, the rinkels, and the gaboon viper. Antivenom can be sold to the general public, but it is extremely expensive, with polyvalent antivenom costing upwards of 2,000 Rand per vial, which is 10 milliliters, and monovalent antivenom can reach upwards of 6,500 Rand per vial. Bearing in mind that should you require antivenom as part of the treatment, you on average will need between 8 and 12 vials. So that ends up being a really lot of money. Not only that, antivenom has a very short shelf life, around about 3 years, and it needs to be stored consistently at a temperature of between 4 and 10 degrees, so fridge temperature. Should the antivenom be exposed to higher temperatures and increase its own temperature, it then decreases the efficacy or the efficiency at which the antibodies can neutralize the venoms. And for something so expensive, you don't want it to not work properly. Antivenoms can only be injected by doctors in a hospital environment. This is because, as I mentioned before, not all envenomation cases require antivenom. In fact, it's only a very small case, and this is when symptoms are extremely severe, so you need to be monitored in order to see whether antivenom is required or not. The other reason is that many people are in fact allergic to horses. Thus, they will be allergic to the antibodies and proteins that we've obtained from the horses to produce the antivenom serum. And when someone is allergic to something that badly, they can go into anaphylactic shock or anaphylaxis. Once again, they'll be monitored should this occur, and if it is found that they are going into anaphylactic shock, adrenaline needs to be administered. This is because if not treated, anaphylaxis can cause you to check out of the game of life rather prematurely. And speaking of checking out, time to check out of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, drop a comment below. I always enjoy hearing from you, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and hit that notification bell to keep up to date with any new content. And remember, it's never too late to learn. Catch you in the next one.